The world today is entangled in a complex web of crises where military ambition, economic warfare, and political maneuvering collide. And nowhere is this clearer than in the simultaneous escalation of tensions in Venezuela, Ukraine, China, Germany, Denmark, Greenland, and Brazil, all tied to the unpredictable influence of Donald Trump's foreign policy. Beginning with Venezuela, which has formally appealed to the United Nations for protection as its government warns of imminent U.S. naval deployments in the Caribbean, alleging even the possibility of nuclear-capable submarines being positioned within striking distance. Caracas fears a direct intervention justified by Washington AS claim that Nicolas Maduro is not a legitimate president, but merely the head of a drug cartel known as Los Soles, thereby attempting to strip Venezuela of sovereignty in order to legitimize military action. However, despite Maduro's calls for a Latin American front of resistance, neighboring states like Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, and Guyana have either distanced themselves or outright aligned with U.S. policy, leaving Venezuela diplomatically isolated as American naval power vastly outmatches all regional militaries combined, creating a scenario where Venezuela's only recourse is to lean further into its partnerships with Russia and China. Simultaneously, the Pentagon has gone public with its growing alarm over China's rapid advances in military technology, pointing to Beijing's 2021 test of a maneuverable hypersonic glide vehicle capable of launching missiles mid-flight, an event described by U.S. commanders as a Sputnik moment that signaled the potential for China to surpass American innovation, with Beijing integrating its civilian and military-industrial bases far more effectively than the United States, whose defense innovation units remain scattered and underfunded. The Pentagon is thus rushing to establish strategic cooperation with allies such as Taiwan, Japan, and potentially Australia and the Philippines in order to counterbalance China's growing maritime power, as Beijing already possesses the largest navy by number of vessels. Meanwhile, in Europe, the geopolitical spotlight turned north when Denmark summoned the U.S. ambassador in outrage after discovering secret American operations aimed at influencing Greenland's politics, with evidence suggesting individuals linked to Trump's circle were quietly funding pro-MAGA sentiment, promoting anti-Danish propaganda, and pushing Greenlandic politicians toward independence or even annexation by the United States, all of which feeds Trump's openly stated desire to acquire Greenland, a territory of only 57,000 people, but immense strategic value due to its Arctic location, its mineral wealth such as lithium, and its role as a potential hub for U.S. missile defense systems in the event of direct conflict with Russia. Greenland also sits at the crossroads of new Arctic trade routes opening as climate change melts sea ice, further explaining Washington's determination to control it. But Denmark considers such interference unacceptable, as it is both Greenland's sovereign protector and a founding member of NATO, meaning an American attempt to seize the island would place two allies into unprecedented confrontation under Article 5, raising the bizarre question of whether NATO would be obligated to defend Denmark against the United States itself. In Eastern Europe, Trump's stance on the Ukraine war further destabilizes the Western alliance, as he alternates between praising Vladimir Putin and warning President Zelensky that Ukraine is getting beaten badly and must sign a humiliating peace treaty on Russian terms, a position reinforced by reports that ExxonMobil is exploring renewed cooperation with Russian energy firms despite sanctions, suggesting that parts of the U.S. establishment already anticipate normalization with Moscow at Kiev's expense, while German media have revealed damning new evidence that Ukrainian operatives, not just rogue civilians, were directly involved in the sabotage of the Nord Stream pipeline, using authentic state-issued documents and intelligence coordination, thereby implicating Kiev in an attack that not only targeted Russia but also Germany's own energy security, a revelation that complicates European solidarity with Ukraine, particularly in countries like Hungary and Slovakia that rely on Russian oil pipelines and have already expressed frustration at Ukrainian strikes against their infrastructure. All of this unfolds while Washington exerts commercial pressure on Brazil through Section 301 trade investigations, accusing the country of enabling piracy, corruption, and misuse of financial systems like PX, but most alarmingly, targeting Brazil's pharmaceutical policies by attempting to block the production and distribution of generic medicines under the pretext of patent enforcement, a move condemned by Doctors Without Borders as a direct threat to the lives of millions of poor Brazilians dependent on affordable treatments for HIV and chronic illnesses. As such actions reveal how the United States is willing to leverage intellectual property as a weapon of geopolitical influence, effectively waging a drug war that prioritizes corporate monopolies over human health. When we step back, a chilling pattern emerges. The U.S. is simultaneously pushing military escalation in Venezuela, a covert influence campaign in Greenland, technological containment against China, pressure for Ukrainian capitulation to Russia, and economic strangulation of Brazil, all while Trump's erratic leadership amplifies uncertainty, oscillating between diplomacy and aggression, charm and coercion, deals and threats, leaving the international system in a precarious state where allies distrust one another, adversaries exploit every opening, and smaller nations like Greenland or Brazil are caught in the crossfire of great power ambitions, which means that the current decade may be remembered as the dawn of a new Cold War, one fought not only with missiles and armies, but with data patents, propaganda, and the strategic manipulation of global vulnerabilities, all converging into a world order where the line between peace and conflict grows dangerously thin.